I joined Kroo Bank a year ago, and in this video I will tell you about the things you need to know to decide if Kroo is the right fit for you. I'm about to tell you in this no-frills review what is good and not so good about Kroo Bank. This isn't a detailed technical review, it's a review from me, a real customer who wanted simple access to great interest rates from a digital bank, and you'll know this isn't particularly easy to come by. I didn't want to open a current account and then via that get access to a savings account with a good rate. I wanted just one account that provided a great interest rate which I could use for short-term parking of my cash whilst I waited for investment opportunities that would lead to even greater returns. If you've seen my Starling Bank review, both personal and for business, then you'll know that I don't consider myself a very early adopter, but I do still get to things before the masses do. And therefore that leaves me in a good position to test things out, show you what I'm testing, and give you my opinion on what I've found. I'm drawn to digital banks because they are digital first, they are accessible, they are convenient, and probably a whole bunch of other adjectives I could throw at it. My rationale for opening this account with Kroo was very simple. I wanted a simple, no-frills account that gave a good, high interest rate for cash that I wanted to park for the short term. I wanted to have instant access to my money. I didn't want it tied up in investments. I wanted to be fairly confident that this account would offer consistently high interest rates, but it didn't have to be the best one on the market. In a rising interest rate environment, you can quickly be priced out of what looks like a good rate when you open your account. If that bank doesn't then increase savings rates in line with increasing rates from the central bank, then you could be at a bit of a disadvantage. Current account or savings account? I didn't really care as long as it provided instant access to my money and I could transfer it in and out at will. Now I knew Kroo had been around for a while and I knew that it had tracked the base rate set by the Bank of England. On its website, it says very clearly that the interest rate offered on your Kroo current account will be a tracker rate, 0.9% below the Bank of England rate. This is good because if rates rise, then so does the interest earned by my cash. Of course, the opposite is also true. If the Bank of England were to reduce rates, then my cash wouldn't earn so much interest. So in choosing a digital bank for my needs, I only really had three criteria. Number one, I wanted the bank to have FSCS protection from the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. This means that up to £85,000 of your money is protected by the Financial Services Compensation Scheme should the bank ever default or go bust. This is important with any bank, of course, but even more so with new digital banks. From the 2008-2009 financial crisis, we know that any financial institution can go bust, even ones that have been around for 100 years or so. And therefore it's critical for me whenever I'm choosing any bank to park my hard-earned cash. My second criteria was, does this bank offer consistently high interest rates? We dealt with that criteria a little earlier. And the third criteria was, is the cash easy to access? I was specifically looking for the best interest savings rates with instant access. Yes, notice accounts are probably likely to get me a higher rate of interest and even more savings interest on my money. But for my purposes, I wanted instant access. That's what I was looking for. The answer for Kroo to all the above was yes. It met all three criteria. And while I was doing my research, I realized that Kroo had a social commitment as well. They were committed to doing good on top of being a bank. This was of instant appeal to me and made the decision to choose Kroo even easier. Kroo has made a commitment to plant 1 million trees for the planet. They will plant 2 trees for every new customer that joins them. This is a simple to understand goal and it makes sense from a business perspective as well. With all else being equal, why wouldn't you choose a bank that wants to do good for society and the planet as well? Now let's jump into the crux of this review. What I'm going to show you is as follows. The applications process, how long it took for my account to be opened, getting the first set of funds over, any issues I experienced, the arrival of the card, the customer support, the first interest payment, and then some pros and cons. And of course throughout, I'll show you bits of the app as well. Applying for the account was fairly simple, and if you've ever opened an account with a digital bank before, then the process will be very familiar to you. These are some of the standard screens you'll see. You'll see there's the ID verification process, the uploading of documents, taking a photo and video and submitting it, etc, etc. After you've submitted your application, you could be forgiven for thinking that your account, your shiny new Kroo account, will be opened within a few minutes and you can start transacting immediately. And whilst this may be possible, Kroo's website actually says you can apply within minutes, not begin transacting within minutes. My experience was that it took about 2.5 hours from completing the application process, answering a question or two from the support team, to my account actually being opened. You then get asked to set up a new PIN for your card and they then dispatch that to you. And that will normally arrive within about 4 or 5 days, as soon as you receive that confirmation email that your account has been opened. Once my account had been opened, I wanted to quickly make my first transaction to check out how everything worked and to ensure that first transaction went smoothly. This is where I made a slight error. I got so excited, yes, excited, A little sad, I know. But I got so excited that the account was open that I tried to transfer £10,000 immediately into the new account. Let's think about this. New account opened, 0 transaction history, new sort code and account number provisioned that hadn't been used before by anyone, and now I'm trying to send £10,000 from my main account into this shiny new one. To do that, I've created a new payee in my main account and tried to send a big amount to it straight away, within minutes. Was it any surprise, therefore, that my main bank wanted to do some further due diligence before approving that transfer of funds? So I sent the £10,000 from my main account, but didn't get confirmation from Kroo or any notification from the Kroo app that the funds had arrived. I started panicking at this stage, as anyone would. I logged into my Kroo app via my phone biometrics, and the balance was still 0. Thankfully, I think, 2 minutes later, I receive a call from my bank, from my main bank, saying they wanted to check some suspicious activity they had noticed on my account. After 10 to 15 minutes on the phone with them, confirming I was me, and it was me making the transaction to me, but to a new account, trying to convince them that no one was holding a gun to my head at this time, forcing me to make that transaction, and it was me just moving funds around to get a better interest rate. I did kind of like telling them the last bit, but I don't think the anti-fraud guy at the end of the line really cared much. After about 10 to 15 minutes on the phone with this chap, they authorized the transaction and told me it would arrive at my new account within the next few minutes. Just as they had said, within a few minutes, I received my first Kroo Bank transaction notification. My funds had arrived. My new balance stood at £10,000. Woohoo! Over the next few days, I made several different transactions to really load that Kroo Bank account up, as I wanted to maximize the interest I was receiving from my parked funds. My main account was close to 0 in savings interest, so I didn't want to lose out any longer than I had to. My Kroo debit card arrived in the next few days as well. And it's nice. No neon bright colors or metal plated or anything fancy like that. It's a card. It does the job. Not much more to say about that. All the usual card controls that you'd expect are in the app. You can freeze or unfreeze your card, you can get your PIN reminder, and there's several others as well. But again, aside from saying that they all work, and I've tested them, there's not much more to dwell on there. Okay, a quick 15-second detour to ask you to consider subscribing to the channel. These videos take a ton of time to make, and I hope they're really helpful. And in return, I'll send you some virtual hugs. Or not. Whatever you want, really. Now back to the video. One thing missing for me when I opened my Kroo account was a lack of pots. Savings pots that I could use to even further separate my money. I did ask their customer service about it through the app, but I got a pretty useless, it's coming, don't know when, it could be in the next 3 to 6 months or 2045, but you can keep an eye out on our news communication for our future product launches kind of response. They did put an emoji on the end of that response, so I guess that makes it all better. I then noticed that Kroo were raising funds via Crowdcube. And through that, I found that pots were indeed coming to Kroo in Q4 of 2023. But Q4 came and went and the savings pots hadn't appeared yet. However, at the time of making this video, I checked back on my app and pots have arrived. Kroo savings pots are now here. They've only released them in the last few days, but I can show you how they now work. I haven't yet created my first pot, and so I'll create one live on this video so you can see how it all works. Having pots was a massive lacking feature, so I'm so glad it's now here. Creating a Kroo savings pot is very simple. You create a pot, give it a name, add funds to it, and you're done. All the usual things you'd expect ring true with Kroo pots. All the money across your entire account, your main account and your pot, all earns the interest at the top rate, so you're not missing out by organizing your funds better in the way you want. And of course, if you go overdrawn in the main part of your account, then you don't incur any interest charges if the overall balance across all your pots and main account remains positive. And if it's positive, you'll of course be earning interest rather than being charged it at a much higher rate, because that's how banks work. My account was open, my card was here, I'd added funds to it, and I'd played around with the app to make sure I was comfortable with moving funds around, withdrawing, etc. And then it happened. The first day of the next month arrived. I received a magical notification that told me how much interest I had learned in my first month with Kroo. And when you receive that, you love yourself that little bit more, because this was the whole point you moved to Kroo in the first place, right? To get these magical notifications that made your life feel even better. No? Just me then. Okay, moving on. So just to sum up this review, I wanted to lay out the positives of Kroo Bank and my experiences to date with them, and some of the things I think they could improve on as well. Let's start with the positives. Of course, there's the main one, which was actually one of my criteria, that they have a high interest rate with a tracker no less. I did a YouTube short a little while ago about banks not getting loyalty because they mess around with how much interest they pay their customers. They play around with bonus rates just to attract customers and then revert to lower rates. And this is just pointless. For those that are looking for the biggest bang for their buck, they'll move their money around when interest rates make it feasible to do so. But Kroo are showing other banks the way to maintain customer loyalty and the way things should actually be done, if you had a social conscience, of course. After all, I wouldn't even be looking for another bank account if my main bank offered decent rates to start with, would I? Or would you, if you're actually watching this video and are still here? The second positive to mention is that the Kroo app is very simple and intuitive to use. All of the functions you expect are there, clear and within easy reach. And I'm going to mention that social good again. The fact that they've got a commitment to plant trees for every new customer that joins them is great. It's not the thing that you'd actually look for when you're joining a bank, but once you've decided which bank you're going to join, if they're doing some social good, then that just makes customers feel better. It shows customers that they are different from the rest of the pack and that they care about more than just their core bank offering. I'm sure it helps them attract and retain staff as well. Now for the areas of improvement. They don't currently allow international transfers in or out. They say it's under development, but we have no idea when that functionality is arriving. There is also a little bit of a lack of consistent information on how much cash you can withdraw at ATMs abroad. One of the positives for Kroo that I hadn't mentioned earlier is that they allow fee-free withdrawals from ATMs abroad from your Kroo account via their debit card. But in one place on their website, they say that this is restricted to £200 a month, and after that you do start incurring fees. And £200 per month isn't a lot really, because it's likely that you'll need more than that if you're withdrawing from ATMs abroad in the first place. But more worryingly, in another place on their website, they say that the withdrawal limit is £300 a day, which is far more reasonable, but that inconsistency does bother me a bit. I haven't tested any of this to date, but I do hope it's the latter. The speed of customer service responses are really good through the app, but the quality of the responses could be a bit better. They are very friendly and responsive when you ask them a question, but the quality of their response, at least what I've found, does lack sometimes. I think they need to consider what customers would find useful. And it's not really the customer support agent's fault at all, but a lack of customer focus from the higher ups, who probably provide guidance to their support agents to start with. If you want some customer insights, Kroo, then by all means do get in touch. Kroo also don't seem to be very active on socials at all, on social media at all, which is unusual for a digital bank, particularly on Twitter or X, which is where a lot of customer support activity outside of the core banking app takes place. Just check out Monzo, Starling or Revolut's Twitter feeds. You'll find it full of customers trying to get in touch with them that they can't get resolved through the app. It also seems like they had a Twitter X account at one point, then got rid of it for some reason, and now they've got it again. At the very least, this shows some disorganization at some level within the bank. It doesn't affect their core service, of course, and as long as it doesn't, this is just a perception thing. But I think it's important for Kroo to recognize that some customers, like me, will notice and to some degree care about this. So that's it. I've added a link below to Kroo Bank in the notes if you decide to go ahead and open an account with them. If you use that link, there's £10 in it for you and £10 in it for me. So feel free to use it if you decide to join them. So there you go, my no frills review of Kroo Bank after having been a customer for about a year. Are you a Kroo customer yet, or thinking of becoming one? What is important to you when choosing a new account? What brought you to this video in the first place? Let me know in the comments below, or if you've got any further questions or would like me to test something on the app, then ask me through the comments below as well, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. If this has been helpful to you, then hit that like button and share this video with others who might be interested in Kroo. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos like these.